Welcome. Today we are going to understand how Shazam recognizes almost any song in just a few seconds, even in a noisy room. Picture a busy cafe. Glasses are clinking, people are talking, and a song is playing faintly in the background. You tap a button on your phone and a few seconds later, it tells you the exact track. How does it do that through all that noise? The method behind it is surprisingly elegant. Let's start with what sound actually is. Sound is just air pressure changing very quickly over time. When a speaker pushes out, it squeezes the air. When it pulls back, the air thins out. A microphone feels these tiny pushes and pulls. It records them as a single number that goes up and down. Plot those numbers over time, and you get a wiggly line. We call that line a waveform. Here is the problem with that waveform. A song is not one instrument. It is bass, guitar, drums, and a voice, all playing at once. Each one makes its own pattern in the air, but the microphone adds them all together into a single line. So the waveform you record is a tangled sum of everything. You cannot easily look at it and say where the melody is, or where the beat lands. We need a better way to see the sound. There is a beautiful mathematical tool that solves this. It is called the Fourier transform. Think of a glass prism. White light goes in, and a rainbow of colors comes out. The prism reveals the colors that were hidden inside. The Fourier transform does the same thing for sound. You give it a short moment of audio, and it tells you exactly which frequencies are present. It separates the deep bass from the high cymbal, all at once. Now we do something clever. We chop the song into many tiny time windows. For each little window, we run the Fourier transform and get its frequencies. Then we stack those results side by side, left to right, in time order. The result is a picture called a spectrogram. Time runs along the bottom, frequency runs up the side, and the brightness of each point shows how loud that frequency is at that moment. We have turned sound into an image. So what are we actually looking at? The bright spots on the spectrogram are the loud moments. They are points where one particular frequency suddenly stands out from everything else. These bright spots are not random. They are the musically meaningful events. A guitar string being plucked, a drum being hit, the attack of a sung note. The brightest points are like the landmarks of the song, and landmarks are exactly what we can use to recognize it. Here is the key move. Shazam does not keep the whole spectrogram. That would be far too much data, and most of it is noise anyway. Instead, it keeps only the peaks. A peak is a point that is louder than everything around it in its little neighborhood. Everything quieter gets thrown away. What is left is a sparse scattering of dots on a black background. Engineers call this the constellation map, because it really does look like a field of stars. Now, why does this survive a noisy cafe? Think about what background noise does. Chatter and clinking add a little energy everywhere, spread across all frequencies. They raise the overall floor of the sound, but they rarely create a sharp, isolated peak at one exact frequency. The song's true peaks are tall and concentrated. They still stick up above the noise, so even with the floor raised, the same landmarks shine through. That is the secret to its robustness. But a single peak on its own is not very unique. Many songs have a loud note at some frequency at some time. So Shazam does something smarter. It pairs peaks together. It picks one peak as an anchor. Then it looks just ahead of that anchor into a small region called the target zone. It connects the anchor to several peaks inside that zone. Now we are not describing single dots. We are describing the relationships between dots. And relationships are far more distinctive. Each anchor and target pair gets squeezed into a short code called a hash. The hash captures three things: the frequency of the anchor, the frequency of the target, and the time gap between them. Those three numbers feed into a hash function, and out comes a compact string of digits. That little number is like a tiny fingerprint of one local pattern in the song. A few seconds of music produces many of these hashes, together forming the song's audio fingerprint. Now, where do these fingerprints get matched? Long before you ever tap the button, Shazam processes every song in its library in exactly the same way. Each song is turned into peaks, then pairs, then hashes. Every hash is stored in a giant lookup table, and crucially, each stored hash is tagged with 2 extra pieces of information: which song it came from, and the exact timestamp of the anchor inside that song. The library holds well over 10 million songs. Now let's match your clip. When you Shazam a song, your phone records a few seconds. It builds its own little constellation of peaks. It pairs them and computes its own hashes. Then it takes each hash and looks it up in the giant table. Every match returns a list of candidates. Each candidate says, "This hash also appears in this song at this timestamp." The correct song will share many hashes with your clip. Wrong songs might share a few by pure coincidence. So how does Shazam tell a real match from a lucky coincidence? This is the clever final step. For every matching hash, it calculates an offset. The offset is the song's timestamp minus your clip's timestamp. For the correct song, something striking happens. Every single match lines up at the same offset. Because your clip really is a slice of that song, played at one consistent point in time. For wrong songs, the offsets are scattered randomly. The right answer makes a sharp, tall spike. And why is all of this so fast? Because the hashes are just numbers. Looking up a number in a table is almost instant. Shazam does not play every song and compare it to your clip. That would take forever. Instead, each hash jumps straight to its matching rows, like finding a word in the index of a book. Even with millions of songs in the library, the whole lookup takes only hard work was all done in advance. Let's put the whole pipeline together. Sound starts as a waveform, a tangled, wiggly line. The Fourier transform turns it into a spectrogram, a map of frequency over time. We keep only the loudest peaks, forming a constellation of landmarks. We pair those peaks and compress each pair into a hash. And finally, we confirm a match by checking that all the hashes agree on a single time offset. 5 simple stages, chained together. The result is fast, compact, and remarkably hard to fool. So here is the big idea. Shazam never compares raw waveforms. It turns sound into a sparse map of landmark peaks. It hashes the relationships between those peaks. And it only declares a match when every hash agrees on one consistent moment in time. Noise can raise the volume around the song, but it cannot fake that exact geometric pattern. That is why it works in a loud cafe. Geometry beats noise. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you never hear a song the same way again.